A report today is suggesting a large-scale nuclear energy plant in Australia would be very expensive and take a long time to get up and running. Joining me live, Nationals MP Keith Pitt, who's been a big proponent of nuclear energy. What have you made of this? Because these are our top scientists, plenty of time and resources to get this done. $16 billion the first one could cost, and not operational until 2040.
Well, here we go again, Tom. What they've said. And, you know, Chris Bowen's been screaming from the rooftops about show me where it's done, show me where it's done. Well, it's been done in South Korea, it's been done in UAE, and now we have the CSIRO saying that the South Korean costs in Australia would be almost 3 times what it cost to build in South Korea, and we haven't established an industry. Well, we started establishing a nuclear industry in this country the day the AUKUS agreement was signed. It is literally underway, and it has to be, because without that backup...
I'll just talk about one of those calculations you've done. So,
subs.
2.6 times, you're right, South Korea, because that's what coal-fired power stations cost here compared to South Korea. 2.6 times. Things are more expensive here.
Well, Tom, it's not first of type, depending on which one you select. And you can obviously utilise the technology and support that you have from other nations in building these. But let's look at reality. And reality is very clear. Chris Bowen has already said that some $40 billion has been committed by Labor towards intermittent wind and solar. That was without the budget in recent weeks, and there's even more in it then. And it still won't work, right? This is the fundamental problem. And the people I'm talking to, they don't want transmission lines crisscrossing the country all over the place. The proposal for green hydrogen at Gladstone, for example, we've seen reports now that it'll require 110 gigawatts of intermittent wind and solar. Now, to give you a rough idea, that's almost twice what's in the entire East Coast delivery system for electricity generation. It is madness.
All right. Well, we'll find out whether people, you say they don't want crisscrossing transmission lines, we'll find out whether they want nuclear when they have those sites announced from the coalition. Angus Taylor's speech, he's going to make a lot of attacks to GDP speed limit of 23.9%. Well, Labor hasn't gone over that, and it won't in the forward estimate, so that'll change nothing, will it?
Well, as the Prime Minister said in the last couple of weeks, they've delivered a true Labor budget. They have spent everything that they've received and then some. You have deficits across the horizon for as far as the eye can see. It's an extraordinary risk for the Australian economy in terms of inflation. Now, Angus's speech hasn't been delivered yet, Tom. I've only read what's in the media. You might have more than I have in terms of...
But we've heard a lot about 23.9%, and that's Labor hasn't gone over that. So that doesn't change anything, does it?
Well, there's still time. There'll be another BIEFO before the election, I'd imagine. And I think that their expenditure will just continue to rise. But
this
we
is
have
tax
to get
I'm
it
talking
under
about,
control.
not expenditure. Tax.
Well, that's where the expenditure comes from, Tom. And the tax rates here are just extraordinary. They have had rivers of gold from the resources sector. They're taking a very large tax take. We've seen large increases in bracket creep. Personal income tax rates, sure, there's cuts coming, but there was a coalition proposition. We have to get the budget under control because the risk to the economy is simply too high. I'll quote something that was in the Oz. There are a conga line of economists disagreeing with Jimbo, the Treasurer, about the impact on inflation. That is the real risk for people who are trying to pay a mortgage. It's an extraordinary difficult time. I've got people sleeping in cars, Tom, who have jobs and are still going to work. It is really tough for them.
Do you need to, on the spending side of things, there's so much spending in there, and indeed the last coalition budget was well above 23.9%. So a structural deficit, if you like, existed then. Do we need a whole look at this, a commission of audit, like last time the coalition came into power, to just figure out what spending can be cut without hurting people that you were alluding to just then?
Well, I won't be committing the Shadow Treasurer to things he may or may not be doing. But never forget that the then Labor opposition wanted us to spend even greater amounts on COVID recovery, on COVID support. They said we didn't spend enough, we didn't spend it for long enough, and yet now we see them in the parliament saying it's all our fault. Well, the reality is we got the country through a very difficult period of time and out the other side in what I think is probably one of the best positions of any nation in the world. The economy is super strong. Look at how much is coming in revenue from gas, from iron ore, from coal, and Labor is blowing it all. They just spend and spend and spend.
Keith Pitt, got to leave it there. Thank you.